Have you ever heard the expression, the canary in the coal mine? Well, it's basically, it kind of talks about the canary, which is an early indicator that something's going wrong inside the coal mine and that you had better get your butt out of there. Now, people use it as a general expression, but actually it came from a real live thing. But now how I use it in my life is the same type thing. So if you want to learn about my canaries and your canaries and how to use them to figure out how we can make our lives better, stick around. I'm Michael Kowal, and welcome to my world. So the canary in the coal mine is actually a real thing. It's not just an expression, although the expression is incredibly useful in our day-to-day lives. But it came from reality. And the reality is this. Back in the 1800s and in through the early 1900s, in the coal mines of the UK, a lot of people were dying. A lot of the miners were dying, for a lot of different reasons. But there was a lot of things going on there that they couldn't figure out. It was kind of like out of nowhere, people would just drop dead, and they weren't sure why exactly. And then through some investigations and all of this, I think they finally ended up figuring out that it was poison gases down there, poisonous gases. And carbon monoxide was the main one that was getting everybody. And carbon monoxide is pretty nasty stuff because it's you can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't taste it. It just simply kind of crawls up and gets around you until it chokes you to death. It forces out all the oxygen. So the difficult thing is, how do you detect something like that? How can you figure out when this kind of silent killer is coming up to kill you, right? So in 1911, this one doctor in Scotland, a Scottish doctor, he came up with this idea. And it was a pretty amazingly simple, quick, easy thing. And I'm actually going to do a couple of links down below because the guy himself was fascinating. He came up with a couple of other inventions. I think he did the first gas mask in World War II. He did oxygen tents for healing people. And so he was a big respiratory kind of a guy. But one thing he knew about canaries, which canaries are kind of interesting little things, besides being cute as hell and tiny or however big they are, is that they have these interesting lungs. And inside the lungs, they've got extra air sacs. So it's kind of funny. Where normally we sit there and we breathe in air, right, to pull the oxygen out, and then we exhale to get all the old air out, and we keep going like that, right? Now, those canaries are pretty smart little suckers because what they have is they have these extra air sacs inside of their lungs. And so what they're able to do is to hold on to some extra oxygen. So they get oxygen, they get to pull that out of the air when they breathe in and when they breathe out, right? So they can really oxygenate their system. They just really pump up and they can fly high heights and all of this stuff. Pretty amazing stuff. But the Scottish doctor kind of figured out that, okay, well, you know what? Because their respiratory system is so fast like that, and they pull in so much oxygen, you take them down into a coal mine, and if carbon monoxide or anything else, some poisonous gas shows up, they're going to be the early indicator that there's a problem. And unfortunately, I think a lot of nice, cute little canaries probably died in the process. But in taking them down there, they saved a lot of miners in the process. Now, I kind of tend to use the same thing. I had an incident back a number of years ago before we moved up here to Oregon. And it was interesting. I was working at a job, and I actually loved the job. I loved the people I was working with. Everything about it was fantastic. But in the end, we were working on this one really large, intense project. And throughout it, I was just working very hard, kind of like overworking myself. And I never want to make a mistake. I always want to be perfect, which is so stupid. I know, I get it, but this is the way I am. And so I was just heaping a lot of stress on myself, and it was pretty bad. Now, at the same time, oddly, I started getting this weird kind of like, a heat rash where you got on your hand or whatever, and it just kind of shows up as kind of like red dots and stuff like that. Well, I had one of those on my shin, on my right shin. And it was the craziest thing because, it would show up and then it would go away and then it would come back and get, a little stronger, and it never really hurt or anything like that. But finally, after a lot of times this thing coming and going, I got so annoyed I went to the doctor. And so I asked her, what's the deal here? What's going on? And so she, poked at it and prodded at it and kind of checking stuff to find out what's going on. And she says, I don't know what it is, but, I can give you a prescription for hydrocortisone cream and, it'll help calm it down. But, I mean, that's just a temporary fix. It's going to take care of the symptoms. I want to know what the hell's causing the thing, right? But at least she didn't indicate that I was going to die at any time soon. So I get home, and of course, all throughout this time, my wife, she's a smart one. She's a smart one, I'll tell you. And so when I got back, she says, and even before I went there, she was going like, I think it's just stress. I think it's just all the stress. It's kind of like showing up there, kind of an odd way. And sure enough, that's what it was. Because through a couple of other things, we ended up, I left the job and we moved up here to the Oregon coast for a number of different reasons. But it was funny. We've been up here for about 6 years, and that thing has only shown up maybe twice since then. And even there, it was about like at a quarter speed. It wasn't really going crazy or anything like that. So my wife was right, and it was kind of funny. Just kind of going like, God darn, that was just stress. It was like an indicator of stress, right? That was one of my canaries. And that was when I first kind of understood that concept. It's like, and even now, if I see it start flaring up a little bit, we both are going like, okay, where's my stress? What's going on in my life right now? And then I try to address it, and I try to either de-stress or do whatever it is that I have to do. But the thing is that I know that there are canaries all over in my life, whether it has to do with, daily tasks or something like that. I've started to look at my life that way. Because if you kind of think about it, right? Okay, stress stress anyway is a killer. And I don't know if you've, read a lot of the studies and things like that, but it really is kind of a cause of a lot of disease, or can exacerbate a lot of diseases, make it even worse. So we're not talking about just stress here within this video that I'm talking about, but it's kind of like there are all of those silent things going on inside of our own heads, inside of our own minds, inside of our own bodies. They are our kind of like silent fears, those beliefs that hold us back, those things that stop us from being everything that we want to be. Now, I think that a lot of times we create in our lives events to help us understand that, if you keep continuing down this path, you're going to end up in a very bad place. They are our canaries. Now, if you start to pull yourself out of those situations, out of the emotional aspect of it, okay? Or let's use this as an example. Let's say that for one particular week, for whatever reason, or a few days in a row, you're going out dealing with people or something, and for some reason, everybody's getting mad at you, right? You can't even explain it. It's like a weird thing. Or, flipping the tables, you seem to get mad at everything else. No matter what happens, you just got an anger going on and stuff. None of it's rational. None of it seems to be real. You can't understand it. It's like carbon monoxide, isn't it? It's that thing that kind of creeps into your life. You can't see it. You can't smell it. You can't sense it. You don't understand what's going on. But yet, the canary in your life is letting you know that something bad is going on. And it's time for a change. I also think the universe brings these things on, which is so fantastic, because the universe and our higher selves, the people that we really are, they just want us to heal. They love us. They love us so much and they want us to be better. So they keep kind of poking us in the butt with our little canaries to kind of get us to make the changes that we need to make. So if you're able to take a look at those situations in your life, those things that come up, if you get like constant headaches or something like that, or you can't seem to hold on to money or something like that, those are just indicators. Those are just indicators that are coming back into your life to help you, to push you, to prod you, to make you realize that it's time for a change, that it's time to heal. Now, let me ask you, what kind of things do you have going on in your life right now? Maybe one thing that might be a kind of canary for you, yeah? Something that's kind of like keeps recurring in your life, whether it's this week or maybe for your whole life, as all of us have them. So what ends up happening is how you can use this. You step out and you look for those little canaries. You look for those things that are trying to warn you, that are trying to tell you. And when you take a step out away from it, you can sit there, and it's not like you're talking to the canary, but you kind of sit there and you kind of go, okay, I can do like 3 things here. I can look at it and say, what is this thing trying to tell me? What is going on here? Is there the gas around me that I need to get the hell out of this mine? Do I need to do something differently? What is it trying to tell me? The next thing is what can I actually do? Which is kind of leads from the other one, right? What's the thing that I can do right now? Because unless you do something differently, unless you choose to change and try something different, you're going to keep getting the same thing. That's why that canary keeps coming back in your life, right? And sometimes it'll keep pecking you on the head to let you know it's time to change, Michael. Because I've got a lot of these things in my life. One of the big ones I'm trying to handle now, and I've known it for a while, is I have a lot of problems with self-love, which, oh my God, that's a whole nother subject. And it's like something you never want to talk about, but it's necessary because self-hatred is actually one of the worst things on the planet. And I think a lot of people are afflicted with it. But we'll get into that on down the line. We've got a whole lot of stuff to get through here. But for right now, it's the canaries. And you get to look into your life. You get to see where those things are. And if you pull yourself out of the situation to look at it as simply an indicator that something needs to change, that's usually the time where you can begin that process of changing. It can be that easy. That's why this concept is so simple and it's so powerful. Look for the canary in your life. What's your personal canary that you've got going on now? Take a look for one this week and try it out and just see. I know you probably already know of one right now, or 5 or 12 or 14, like I know I've got in my life. But this week, just try one and see, what is it trying to tell me? What is the thing I can do to help myself? And it may be just getting the hell out of the mine, but either way, try it this week. So, if you like this, like it, go ahead. Subscribe as always. Keep coming along for the journey. It's kind of fun. We got other stuff going on, but in the end, this week, find yourself a canary and do something about it. You'll be glad you did. Love you.